morning, y'all. Well, fall decided to get the temperatures adjusted properly. It's cool here in the mountains, with a forecast of cooler. The Bulldogs are taking the week off to lick their wounds from the game with Bama. I'm hoping we can get things sorted out for Kentucky next week. Then it's on to Jacksonville. It's a hard thing for old married couples to keep the spark alive, or so I'm told. If you want to sit through 2 hours of absolute torture to have that point driven into your brain like a rusty railroad spike, watch the movie Hope Springs. Now that we're not supposed to be using extraordinary interrogation techniques like waterboarding, I suggest we go to Hope Springs on a loop. The suspect could be all strapped in like Malcolm McDowell in A Clockwork Orange and not be allowed to close his eyes or turn away. I bet it wouldn't take 2 showings to get the same results as a near drowning. Eventually I suspect the Geneva Convention will step in and stop the practice as inhumane. But until then, let's give her a shot. We're being criticized because the ISIS are so much better at multimedia than we are. I believe we can up the stakes with Hope Springs. Well, talking about a bad movie doesn't get us to this week's date night selection, and I chose American Graffiti. I remember how when the movie first came out, Mulva and I saw the movie at the old Starlight Drive-In. Little Bud Jr. was about 3 or so, and Melody was still a twinkler in her daddy's eyes, they say. The drive-in was the only way we could see movies back then because we had an infant that was given to banshee-like yells at unexpected times. Bud Jr. wasn't hurting, he was happy. He just expressed his joy by hollering like a bear stuck in barbed wire. We could take Junior to the drive-in movie just fine though. Make a pallet out of the back seat, give him a bottle, and before long he'd be sawing logs. We saw a lot of shows like this. Ah, the good old days. Anyway, the romantic in me was feeling a bit nostalgic, so when I saw the American Graffiti in my box of Betamax tapes, I knew I had a winner. For the uninitiated, American Graffiti was a lot of firsts for a lot of things. Certainly the first movie about cruising, which was the great American pastime for teenagers of that era. Rolling up and down the streets on the weekend, showing off your hot car, and generally preening like a peacock, was a rite of passage in most small towns. The weekend's cruising provided conversation for the entire week, and then we got to do it again. Gasoline was about 35 cents a gallon, so $1 went a long ways in terms of providing entertainment. American Graffiti caught the culture perfectly. American Graffiti was directed by George Lucas, produced by Francis Ford Coppola, and starred a group of kids who would come along and become Hollywood's elite. We'll give a shout out to Harrison Ford, Richard Dreyfuss, Ron Howard, Cindy Williams, Candy Clark, Paula Matt, Charlie Martin Smith, and Mackenzie Phillips. Even the cameos are stellar, with Wolfman Jack playing himself and Suzanne Summers playing the mystery girl. The entire plot is done in vignettes, which allows for better character development in my opinion. I think everybody watching could find a character that they could identify with from their high school days. American Graffiti, to me, is a perfect film time capsule. The soundtrack was true to the period, and in this reviewing, Mulva and I were patting our feet through much of the movie. We did resist the urge to get up and dance, though, knees and hips being what they are. The cars, clothes, and language were spot on to the late 60s. Maybe we should do a 60s party here in the rec room. I bet there'd be a lot of authentic outfits. I know I still got my letter jacket somewhere. All in all, American Graffiti is a darn good date night movie selection for us old timers. Check it out.